All right, let's dive in. We're about to try and unlock one of the most famous, but honestly, one of the most misunderstood books in the world, the Book of Proverbs. For so many of us, it just feels like a confusing jumble of one-liners. But what if I told you there's a hidden user manual, right there at the very beginning, that changes how you read the entire thing?
So, here's our game plan. First, we're going to talk about why this book is so often misread. Then, we'll uncover that hidden user manual and see the 4 big goals it sets out. After that, we'll zero in on its one foundational principle and even put it to a real-world test. And hopefully, by the end, you'll have a totally new way to look at it.
Okay, so let's start with the big problem. For a book that's supposed to be all about wisdom, why is it so hard to get into? You open it up and it just feels like this random collection of sayings with no rhyme or reason, no clear path forward.
And, this isn't some new thing. The scholar John Mackenzie pointed out that Proverbs has had this strange reputation for a long time. It just doesn't seem to grab anyone, not casual readers, and not even the academics. It's a book that pretty much everyone knows of, but very few people really understand.
And this is where it gets really relevant for us today. Haddon Robinson put it perfectly. We live in this age of incredible knowledge. We're basically intellectual giants. But when it comes to the actual art of living, we can feel like pygmies. It's like we're drowning in data, but we are absolutely starved for real wisdom.
So this quote from John Collins just hits the nail on the head. Reading Proverbs can feel exactly like trying to talk to someone who only gives you these snappy, disconnected one-liners. There's no flow, there's no story, and because of that, most people just get frustrated, close the book, and move on. But they're missing the key.
And that brings us to the solution. See, the key to the entire book isn't buried in some obscure chapter halfway through. It's right there at the start, hiding in plain sight in the first 7 verses. This isn't just some fancy preface, it's the user manual for the whole thing.
These first 7 verses, I'm telling you, they're everything. They aren't just an introduction, they are the instructions. They lay out the book's goals, who it's for, and the single guiding principle you need to understand all of it. If you get this part, the rest of the book just opens right up.
But here's why we all miss it. We treat this intro like a highway in the summer desert. We just want to fly past it as fast as possible to get to what we think is the good stuff, the actual Proverbs. It feels like an obstacle we have to get past, not a map we're supposed to study. So let's swap out that metaphor. Instead of a desert highway, think of it more like a pilot's flight plan. It shows you the terrain ahead, your objectives, the compass you need to navigate. I mean, you'd never just ignore the flight plan before taking off, right? So why do we ignore this?
Okay, let's actually look at this flight plan. What are the specific objectives here? What is the Book of Proverbs really trying to accomplish? Well, the introduction spells out 4 very distinct goals.
But before we list those goals, we have to define the main word here: wisdom. In Proverbs, wisdom doesn't just mean being smart or knowing a bunch of facts. It's a skill. And it's described as the greatest skill of all, the skill of living a good, moral life in a universe that has a moral order.
Okay, so with that definition in mind, the flight plan gives us 4 objectives. First, it's to help us truly know wisdom and discipline. Second, it's to help us understand the real meaning behind all these dense sayings. Third, it's to gain moral insight, to know what's right, what's just, and what's fair. And finally, its goal is to equip the young and inexperienced with the tools they need to navigate the world.
All right, so after listing these 4 goals, the introduction gives us the one single, non-negotiable principle for getting there. It's presented as the absolute starting line for the entire journey. You can't skip this part.
And here it is, verse 7. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Now, this isn't just one more proverb on the pile. It's presented as the absolute cornerstone. The author is basically saying, without this, nothing else in this book is going to make any sense. It is the key that opens the front door.
Now that phrase, the fear of the Lord, I know it can be a little confusing. The sources help clarify it in 2 ways. For someone who's not a person of faith, yeah, it can mean a fear of judgment. But for the believer, who's the real audience for this book, it's not about being terrified. It's a deep, motivating reverence and awe. It's about understanding your place in the universe in a way that shapes every single decision you make.
Okay, so that's the theory, right? We have the goals and we have the foundational rule. But the book doesn't just leave it there as some abstract idea. Nope. Immediately after the introduction, it throws you right into a real-world test to show you exactly how this wisdom is supposed to work in practice.
So how does this play out? Well, the very next section tackles one of the most timeless and powerful temptations imaginable, the lure of easy money, of unjust gain. It asks the question, will the son be content with hard work, or will he take a shortcut to wealth, even if it means compromising his integrity?
And just look at how practical this is. The sinners in the story make this three-part pitch that is incredibly tempting. They offer belonging. Come on, be one of us. They promise wealth. We'll get all kinds of amazing stuff. And they offer security. Don't worry, we'll all share one purse. It's a powerful appeal to our deepest desires for community, prosperity, and safety.
But here's where the wisdom kicks in. The text reveals this profound irony. The ambush they think they're setting for other people is actually a trap for their own lives. This path of unjust gain, the book warns, it ultimately takes away the life of its possessors. It's basically a self-destruct button.
And this brings us full circle to a completely new way of reading this entire book. When you understand the introduction, when you have the flight plan, all those random-sounding one-liners suddenly start to click into place. They start to look like a coherent structure.
The scholar T.T. Brown gave this powerful metaphor to wrap it all up. He says, Proverbs isn't just a palace of knowledge, it's a temple of wisdom. And to get inside, you have to read the inscription carved over the door. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. That one verse is the key that unlocks the whole thing.
So I'll just leave you with this final thought. We are swimming, maybe even drowning, in information, data, and opinions. We have more knowledge at our fingertips than any other generation in history. But what does it truly mean to be wise? Well, Proverbs suggests it begins not with what we know, but with who we revere.